Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the ball. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jacks. I don't care if they ever get back. So just root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. 'Cause it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Hey guys, Steve-O here from Movies and TVs on the Ball, and it was, I think, a couple weeks ago, opening day for the Major League Baseball, and I was thinking to myself, I said, "Self, why don't I take this time since we're in baseball season to discuss what is my top, I wouldn't say top 10, top 5, top 10 favorite baseball movies that you like. I would want to know your thoughts on it, audience, but I guess we can kind of start by talking about um, my favorite baseball films. I would have to say that my probably number, films like Rookie of the Year with Ian Michael, oh, the kid from King Arthur's Court, where he slips on a ball and breaks his tendon, and he can like throw. He becomes the pitcher, and kind of like what would happen if a kid joined the major leagues. And there's Major League, which there's a lot of baseball films I haven't seen, but Major League, which I've heard is a pretty decent film. For Love of the Game, which is a really interesting film. I think that film and Field of Dreams would be a great double feature, uh, because of one, it has Kevin Costner. Two, the other reason why I feel like it would be a great double feature is it has baseball, and it kind of has sort of the "if you build it, they will come," him building a baseball field. And it had, speaking of Field of Dreams, it had um, James Earl Jones um, playing the old timer who was like, "We're going to build a baseball field." And then, speaking of James Earl Jones, you have one of the best '90s baseball films ever is The Sandlot with it has so many iconic scenes like the Great Bambino, and "You're Killing Me, Smalls," and it's just kind of a great film where I feel like for us '90s kids, we sort of grew up on that type of, the baseball film like that. They actually, baseball films, because you had Ricky Rocket Rodriguez as kind of the cool kid. I think every kid would want to be him because he just was so cool, and kind of what we felt more like the outsiders, like the kid that came to the town. And then you had Dennis Leary as the stepfather. I mean, that's just a classic film. I could go on, and I have The Sandlot on DVD. I might kind of do maybe a review of it sometime later, but I could kind of go on and on. Um, the famous scene where Splints, I think is his name, dives into the diving pool, and has to get rescued with CPR from, I think her name's Holly something, but she does CPR on him, and he ends up kissing her, and she's like, "You little pervert," and she chases him around the pool. It's a great film. I'm not gonna dwell too much onto it, but it's one of the best baseball films out there, that I've seen. I think the other one is a great baseball film is Major League, which I've not seen. These films I've not seen, but I'm just kind of naming off the top of my head. Major League, I've kind of think that film really shows kind of the comedy. Let me know what your thoughts are on Major League. The Fan, which I've seen a little bit of, starred Wesley Snipes and Robert De Niro, and I think he was like an obsessive fan. And Wesley Snipes played a pitcher, I think. played baseball, and Robert De Niro was a huge obsessive fan to him, and it's one of those really good psychological thrillers. And then you had League of Their Own with Tom Hanks, Rosie O'Donnell, Madonna, and um, let's see, I can't remember who else. Um, but and Tom Hanks had the great line, "There's no crying in baseball," um, and there's no crying in baseball, and it was one of the best. That film was so. I mean, I think it's just so iconic, and I would like to know. For me, it was one of those films where I was like, "Oh, this is so talking about the 1940s and such a blast from the past." But it's a really interesting, good film that really brought something into the strong female characters, but it also had it was funny. It Tom Hanks was great in it. It's a really great film. For Love of the Game, which I would probably let me phrase that. Field of Dreams with the late great um, James Earl Jones, who was also in Sandlot as the guy that owned the Beast, and he was the who was the Beast, who owned the Beast, and he said, you could have called me with the baseball, and then he was in Field of Dreams as I think I haven't seen Field of Dreams in a while. I think played the friend of Kevin Costner, who was who had the field, and he made it into a baseball field, and it's like his father was a um, his father was I think like a old baseball film, and he like played catch with his dad. I liked it. I loved it. I thought it was really good. This is more of a film. I'm not really doing reviews of baseball movies. I'm just kind of really giving you kind of what my thoughts are on these baseball films, real quick kind of thoughts. So I'm kind of going off my head. So bear with me. Um, and then you had 42 with the late great Chadwick Boseman, and it had Lucas Black, who was in Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift as a teenager, and it had Harrison Ford as the manager or the owner of 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 the Brooklyn Dodgers, and it was a really I watched this film, and it's a really strong film, and it shows it doesn't shy away from its prejudice of what Jackie Robinson went throughout the throughout his career, or throughout the film. It really brings it's really interesting film to watch. I mean I don't know where I'd put 42 as a baseball film, or as what I would do 42 with another baseball film, but I would probably would put 42 and Get On Up as a really great double feature. Not just because, well, basically because they're two biopics, and it stars the same character or same actor, Chadwick Boseman, for both roles of James Brown and Jackie Robinson. But 42 was a really strong film. There's a really great scene where Chadwick Boseman walks out to the field, and then Lucas Black, who I can't remember who he plays, walks up to him and just puts his hand on his shoulder and says, "You know what? Years from now, everybody will be wearing 42." And I think nowadays there's the Jackie Robinson's Day that that was probably was really strong. I guess you could also say that that other films that you would I would have to say is one of my personal favorite baseball films is probably Angels in the Outfield with Danny Glover and Christopher Lloyd and Joe Joseph Gordon. Oh gosh, what's his name? Hold on 1 second. Uh, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Sorry. And what I loved about him is he was a huge Angels fan. The Angels were the bottom of the pennant, and they were um, bottom of the bottom of the pennant. And he kind of prays for an Angel that his dad says when the Angels win the pennant. I loved it. I feel like it really works. I mean, it's a Disney film. Disney film. It had a lot of fun. It had fun moments, but also serious moments. There's a scene where his dad drives by, and and his dad is kind of struggling with wanting to have custody with Roger Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, and he prays that the Angels will win the pennant. Then Christopher Lloyd shows up as Al, and I love how he clicks his thing, and the hat shows up, and he said, "Just call me Al." And it's one of those films that was really good at sort of being '90s kids would probably say it's a great film. I think it works great. It doesn't take the it takes the serious moments really well. It takes the comedy moments great. I'll probably take more of in depth. One thing that this film actually has is a young Matthew McConaughey who played one of the players as well. But like Danny Glover was amazing as the coach, and I would probably say it was a really strong film for Disney, being kind of talking about faith and baseball. But that's that, and that's that's my top. That's one of my top ones. Then there was I've never seen it, but I'd love to know your thoughts on Ed. And Ed was about a chimpanzee. I've seen the covers at the video store, whereas Ed was like about a who chimpanzee who basically would they got to play baseball, and it was kind of like right before, I think it was in the '90s, so it was before the MVP and MXP, the most vertical primate and most extreme primate, and the most vertical or most valuable primate, most vertical primate, and most extreme primate. The films where the monkey learns to skateboard, play hockey, and snowboard. But I think Ed was sort of more of a film about that. I would say that The Rookie. It's really, I think The Rookie might be another good film that you could probably post with something like The Rookie and Angels in the Outfield. Could be a good double feature if you're putting it on the Disney Channel kind of thing. Because The Rookie was really an interesting film because it starred Dennis Quaid, and he played a guy who was um, a high school. He's a high school science teacher and coach of the baseball, and he tried out in the major leagues back in the '80s, and it didn't work out. And then he ends up trying out again, and he throws a pitch that's like 95 miles an hour, and I think it's based on a true story, and it deals with him being the oldest rookie in Major League history. So that was a really great for a great film, and I would probably put that with something like For Love of the Game. Well, if you did Field of Dreams, there could be a double feature somewhere between that, in a different baseball film. Then there was, let's see, I think there's a lot of good baseball movies as well. There's then there's Moneyball, which is a really great film. Great performance by um, Brad Pitt, and it's the true story of the it's the true story of the Oakland A's in like the early 2000s, and they're the most losingest team in the MLB and the most broke team in the MLB. And they used to the way they played was instead of focusing on players, they focused on hits and runs. And I think Brad Pitt did an amazing job in the film as Billy Bean. I liked it that it really worked out that he, is a great drama. The fact that the film, you know, I didn't know, it was kind of interesting just kind of knowing the facts on using stats instead of players really worked great. And I thought it was a great film. I would probably put Moneyball. Maybe Moneyball would be another one with. I'm trying to think of a good double feature with Moneyball and probably 42 or 8 Men Out, something else. Then you had For Love of the Game, which would be something that that's Kevin Costner, so it'd be like another like he had that film uh, Bull Durham, Bull Durham. So maybe Bull Durham and For Love of the Game and Field of Dreams, the Kevin Costner baseball trilogy, if you will. For Love of the Game, I think kind of has the same way as The Rookie, not based on a true story, but For Love of the Game is like he was like the player that um, he was a player who's kind of like on his last ounce of playing baseball, and it's sort of like he's a pitcher who's pitching over time, and that film deals with sort of the I think kind of looking back at his career and retirement. um, that's I've heard For Love of the Game is a really great film. That might be a good one with Field of Dreams or Bull Durham, I think. But then there's 61, which is based on the Yankees. I think it was directed, or Billy Crystal was in it. And 61 was a really interesting film that dealt with, that I think was something that was on HBO. I haven't seen it, but I've heard 61, good things about 61. Um, then you had the Warmers, which starred Rob Snyder, David, oh God, what's his name? David Spade, and John Hyder from Napoleon Dynamite, and they were like these sort of loser guys who become sort of start their own baseball team, and kind of becoming the low lives and becoming something greater. It's pretty good. I think it's a pretty decent comedy, but I think that would be a good film as well as a good. That's a good kind of film. Let me know what your thoughts on the bench warmers are. As I've said, this is not really a review. I'm just kind of nitpicking about baseball films. The other one I would probably have to say is Mr. 3000. Really good Bernie Mac film. R.I.P. And he deals with a lot of um, I think he bats like the perfect 3,000 game, and then he has to come out of retire. He retires, then comes out of retirement and has to get his stats back up. I think, but those are sort of, and then of course the other one I've seen is Hardball. Hardball was a really good Keanu Reeves film and had Diane Lane, and it had he plays a guy who has to do he gets into trouble with the law. I think as gambling or something. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but he ends up becoming a working kind of for his community service. He works at um, um, he works it up by doing being a baseball coach for a youth group or inner city group, and it starred Keanu Reeves, Diane Lane, a couple other it had Michael B. Jordan, which was I think his one of his first roles. It had Julian Griffin and John Hawkes as well. But that was a pretty good. That's a film that I really enjoyed. Like I said, one of the films I think I probably caught on at like 10 a.m. on TBS. Really great film. Came out when I was 13, so it was a great inner city kind of stuff. Let me know what your thoughts are on Hardball. Um, I mean, there's a lot of baseball films that I would probably spend 2 hours talking about, but let me know what your thoughts are on these baseball movies. Did you were there some? I know there's some that I haven't mentioned, but what was it like watching The Sandlot growing up? What was it like? Are you baseball fans that have watched like baseball movies before and go like, well, that's inaccurate. That's inaccurate. Let me know. I just was wondering what your thoughts are on the whole baseball movies that kind of inspired you. As always, I'm Steve, and take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the ball. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jacks. I don't care if they ever get back. So let's root for the home team. They don't win, it's a shame. 'Cause it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out in the old ball game. Ball game. Sorry. Peace. Like and subscribe. Comment below what your thoughts are on baseball films, and see you at the movies. Bye. Boop. Another film that I wanted to conclude with, because you can talk about so many baseball films, but one of them that really stands out is Fever Pitch, which starred Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore. Jimmy Fallon plays a teacher, but he's also an obsessive uh, Boston Red Sox fan, and he meets Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore thinks he's the greatest guy ever, but she doesn't realize that he is kind of already has a relationship with the Boston Red Sox, and that relationship works great. That relationship gets kind of can the relationship work between baseball and her and Ben, I think is his name, and it's a really good family friendly, rom com film that I think kind of incorporates the baseball stuff. Um, I also enjoy the fact um, that Fever Pitch kind of was actually being filmed during the 2004 Red Sox during the 2004 MLB season when the Red Sox actually won the pennant. I think that's true. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I feel like this is a great baseball film. I kind of want to put it in there, maybe with For Love of the Game. I'm not sure where you would rank that, or where you'd put Fever Pitch as a double feature for any other baseball movie. Or maybe you could probably put that with another sports film. Let me know what your thoughts are on Fever Pitch as well. And thank you for watching. Peace.